This insert is brought to you by Radio Cape Pulpit on 7 to 9 a.m. Visit us on www.capepulpit.co.za.
Pastor Gareth Stead across from me. He's a senior pastor at Every Nations Church in Goodwood. Before I get there, ek wil net sê die nuuskommentaar word moontlik gemaak deur Koemboeke. Besoek www.koembooks.co.za. Sitting across from me, Gareth, good morning, and you're very welcome.
Good morning, Brad. Always good to be with you. Hello, Vanda.
And so sitting with you on a Monday morning, and I was always wondering what went through your mind, Gareth, when you knew you were going to be speaking to me about a Christian perspective on news. And the news at the moment is the kind of stuff that, I don't know, it's like movies are made of. I heard a journalist say just not too long ago, saying, I'm hoping somebody's sitting down behind a keyboard getting ready to make this movie because it's going to be quite something. We're in a bit of a turmoil, aren't we?
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, this is kind of the mafia movies I think you're probably talking about, where the gangsters kind of take control of the government. And it is a day that we should be in a type of lament, I think, before God. I think that a lament is a broken prayer, but it's still a prayer filled with faith to say, God, you are still on the throne. And even though leaders might be doing things that are not right in the eyes of God, there's still things that we can do, and certainly putting our faith in God is a vital thing in this hour. I'm wearing a black armband today.
Ah, yes, I spotted.
There's a bit of a campaign going out called Black Monday, and it really is in that spirit that we are saying there's corruption at the highest office in the land. And the Bible is very clear. I've got a scripture here from Proverbs 29, verse 4. It says, by justice, a king gives a country stability. But those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. And that's quite a powerful summary of what's going on.
Could you read that verse again for us?
So Proverbs 29:4 says, by justice a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. And I think what we're seeing here, I mean, if I could just maybe do a little recap here.
Yeah,
because
please, by all means.
Friday was kind of Black Friday and today is Black Monday. And I think, without just making light of this campaign, I think, I put on my black armband today, and I've got a couple for you if you'd like, please, if you'd like to put one on.
Thank you.
Because,
there you go.
And I appreciate some powerful posts on social media saying, let's not just put on a black armband to say we disagree with what the president has done with this cabinet reshuffle. Let's put on a black armband because we're against every form of injustice. So this is an extreme form of injustice, but there are many other injustices. So let's stand in solidarity with what is right and those who are suffering, the landless, the poor, the victims of injustice. And so that's, I think, a very powerful perspective and a godly one. But just to recap, I think, it's a big week. Thursday night, under the dark of night, a cabinet reshuffle takes place. As you say, movies can be made of these things. And it's not difficult to deduce that these moves are deliberate attempts to remove obstacles in the way of private capture of key state departments and state-owned corporations. So let's list a few here. It's Eskom, it's Transnet, it's the SABC, it's SAA, PRASA, Denel, the list goes on. Now, to have the Treasury supporting tenderpreneurship or backhand deals in contracts, it really, we're seeing here that there are deliberate attempts to divert state resources to private interests, and also to keep those who are responsible away from accountability and ultimately out of prison. So these are very serious moves, and we need to talk about this. We need to protest. We need to stand up and say, well, what are my democratic rights here? I really appreciated what BC Jonas, the outgoing Deputy Minister of Finance, had to say. I was gripped to the live stream of his briefing on Friday, when him and Prophet Gordon, the staff had just been singing Senzeni Na, which means what have we done, which is also a prayer of lament. And they came to the press that said farewell to all the staff at the Treasury there in Pretoria. And then he had the following to say, and if you don't mind me quoting this here, he said, the State of Capture report, remember that's Thuli Madonsela's report that is now being reviewed, possibly rewritten by the current and the new public protector. And that's also something we should be watchful over. But he said this report is the pinnacle of that point that consolidates a picture that state institutions are increasingly vulnerable for attack, and in many instances, to be blunt, for looting. So that's a reality we have. You don't have to be a genius to see the trend. I'm not going to interpret for you what this means, but I'm telling you that you have history unfolding in front of you, at the center of which is a democracy and an economy being undermined by various things, including the diversion of state resources to serve particular interests. And then he went on to say, South Africans have a responsibility to connect the dots and say, what is the political moment in the country? If we're not doing that, I can tell you now that by the time the disaster hits, we will actually be accused of having lived with our eyes wide shut when actually political decay is deepening. That is from a member of the cabinet.
Yes.
Those are very strong words. And so, why are we here again? Why are we here with the powerful doing corrupt things? And just a couple of points for reflection on this. I think we all need to reflect here. The Bible gives us, right from the book of Exodus, the principles of democracy. Jethro comes to Moses and says, this is how you are to elect leaders who are to represent you and help you rule. And he says, you shall elect people who fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness. And we have violated biblical principles for electing leaders. We haven't looked at the private life. The moral character is what qualifies someone for political office. And we need to remind ourselves of that. And then we also hear again, because we put too much power in the hands of too few people. And so the centralization of power is a concern. I don't know how much more time we have, Brad. But
yeah, we're good. We've still got about a minute or so. Yeah.
A lot of Christians also asking, what do I do? There are a couple of statements from church leaders. And for the sake of time, I'll just summarize them. But Bishop Siwa of the Methodist Church came out yesterday very strong, calling Christians to act. Let's have national lament, prophetic and united action, a call for the president to step down. The Archbishop Thabo Makgoba as well on Friday was saying this cabinet reshuffle is anti-poor and spoke very strongly out against it. The Consultation of Christian Churches also issued a statement on Friday. And without reading the whole thing out, basically it is a call for the president to step down. But then they say here, President Jacob Zuma refuses to listen to repeated calls for him to step down. Therefore, we are faced with no alternative but to call for the members of our parliament, especially those in the ANC who stand for what is right, to do the right thing now and to remove him. The looting must stop. Our people are suffering. Yeah. So that's the tone of these statements. And so, as Christians, peaceful protest is something that is a Christian heritage. Martin Luther started that 500 years ago, where he protested not just to church leaders, but it was the religious elite and the political elite who were corrupt. And he said, these are unbiblical things you're doing, and I have a right to protest. And so peaceful protest is a Christian heritage. We need to educate ourselves. We need to raise our voices. We need to support legitimate campaigns. Let's be careful of faceless, nameless campaigns.
Yeah.
There are anarchists around who want to just...
Particularly with view on what's been said around Friday, this coming Friday as well.
Correct.
Yes, don't go to work, don't go to, well, it is school holidays, but, blockade roads, that doesn't seem sensible at this time.
Yes, let's support democratic processes, and there are many that we can engage. We can stand against corruption. I mean, what about the SABC 8? I mean, they stood up against the tide of corruption. They had to go to court. They used democratic rights, and the court case was thrown out. They won it, and they were reinstated. So and so, let's protest in a peaceful and a non-violent way. Let's be constructive. This might get worse before it gets better. Yeah. So let's keep our eyes on the Lord. But let us engage as active citizens, and the tide of South Africa can turn.
Yeah, that's Pastor Gareth Stead, the senior pastor at Every Nations in Goodwood. Gareth, just we quite literally have like 30 seconds. Maybe this isn't the point of discussion, but we could watch this and say, oh dear, and we could stand back and we could say, let's see what happens, or we could say, how could I be part of the solution, even if it's me just going on my knees before God and saying, this is the nation you've given us, this is a special nation. We can't just stand back and see things happen with which we do not agree.
Absolutely, and I think we have to be praying, but we have to put action to those prayers. So find out who your local council is. Ask, are they representing you well? Are they doing a good job? Irrespective of what political party they're part of. I think we need to engage South Africa. Let's own it together and we want to see God's plan for South Africa prevail.
This almost seems like quite a watershed time with a big prayer on the 22nd of April coming up. There's things happening, huge shifts, and let's be a part of the solution, and let's not stand back and hope somebody else will fix it when we actually have a lot of power in our own hands, more than we imagine. Gareth, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Brad and Vanda.
This insert was brought to you by Radio Cape Pulpit on 729 AM. Visit us on www.capepulpit.co.za.